Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's June 21st, 2022 City Council meeting. Would like to ask that everyone please silence all electronic devices. At this time for invocation, I'd like to ask that you bow your head in prayer. Lord, we come before you this evening thankful for your many blessings. Father, we're so very fortunate to live in a country that allows us the opportunity to participate in our governmental process, and tonight we get the opportunity to do just that. As we embark on tonight's agenda of work, we ask that you'll lead, guide, and direct us in the decisions that we make. Oftentimes, Lord, we're faced with the challenge of deciding between competing interests. God, we ask that you give us the wisdom to view all sides and that we deliver a decision that would be in the best interest for our city. Tonight, Lord, we'll be hearing from many citizens, some on the positive and some on the negatives of the items before us. Even though we may disagree at times, may we all abide by your example of love and grace and with respect to all involved. We thank you for our staff that's prepared the documents before us. Many times their work may go unnoticed, but we know their efforts to prepare us is paramount in the decision-making process, and we thank them. May you continue to bless our city and our citizens in everything we do, and may the challenges we face be placed in your hands, that your will be done in resolving the issues that are before us. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
If I could just reference really quickly what the mayor just mentioned in his prayer is, this is the agenda package for the night that staff puts together. 372 pages. It's an awful lot of work and an awful lot of time goes into it. And we certainly appreciate everybody's efforts.
Yeah, sometimes we wish they'd pare it down a little
Yeah.
bit. But no, it is. It's a bunch. And thank you, Harold, for making that point. The next item on our agenda is a proclamation. Parks and Recreation Month. So at this time, we'll call on Tony Laws. It's Tony. There's Tony. And we'll read a proclamation and then have Tony say a few words. City of Burlington, North Carolina, proclamation recognizing Parks and Recreation Month, July 2022. Whereas Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout this country, including the state of North Carolina, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near parks, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being, and engages patrons with conditions such as depression, attention deficit disorders, Alzheimer's, and whereas Parks and Recreation encourages physical activities by providing space for popular sports, hiking trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. And whereas Parks and Recreation programming and educational activities such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education are critical to childhood development. And whereas Parks and Recreation increases the community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas Parks and Recreation is fundamental to the environmental well-being of our state. And whereas Parks and Recreation is essential and adaptable infrastructure that makes our communities resilient in the face of natural disasters. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our state and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas local parks in our state generated over $6 billion in economic activity and provided over 37,000 jobs, ranking North Carolina as 10th in the nation. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month. And whereas the state of North Carolina recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources. Now therefore, I, Mayor Jim Butler of the Burlington City Council, do hereby proclaim the month of July 2022 as Parks and Recreation Month in the City of Burlington, this 21st day of June 2022. Thank you very much. Yep, Mayor.
Thank you, everybody. And is that on? It is. You hear me? Okay. Thank you, everybody. And I just want to say that here in Burlington, we're very proud of recreation and parks facilities, programs, and staff. And we're also very grateful to the City Council, this City Council and previous City Councils and City Administration down through the years that have provided the support and funding to make our facilities and programs one of the best in the state. And I think we're recognized for a city of our size across North Carolina as one of the best recreation and parks programs in our state. And so we're very proud of that. I want to emphasize that we're all about the quality of life, and we certainly think that we provide a good place for the people in Burlington to live and enjoy life. And we have a lot of nice parks and facilities that they can use and hopefully eliminate some of the stress that they're under every day, and also provide activities for their children to have positive influence on their lives growing up here in our city. So thank you very much, and we'll continue to do the best job that we can.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
Absolutely. I will say, I'll put in a little plug. The City of Burlington has on our website a link, www.burlingtoninmotion.com, and some of the projects that our Recreation and Parks Department are working on are on that. So if you want to see some of those, please visit that and take a look. Thanks again, Tony. The next item on the agenda is our Code of Ethics, disclosing any conflicts of interest. At this time, we'll call on City Clerk Beverly Smith.
Council, it is my responsibility to remind you of your duty to avoid conflicts of interest. I ask if there are any potential conflicts concerning tonight's agenda items.
None.
Our next item is the adoption of the agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Our next item is the consent agenda. These items are typically non-controversial. If anyone has any questions about the following items, please let us know. Item A, to adopt an ordinance to approve the following Traffic Commission recommendation to install a stop sign on Short Street at the intersection with Meridian Avenue. Item B, to approve an annual agreement for FY 2022-2023 between the City of Burlington, the Whitsett Fire Department Incorporated for first responder, fire protection, and emergency medical technician services effective July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. Item C, to adopt a resolution in support of North Carolina Department of Transportation funded driveway access project for the VFW building located at 634 West Webb Avenue. Item D, to approve a temporary street closing request for the Recreation and Parks Special Events Fourth Friday's Concert Series at the following locations on the designated dates and time as spelled out in your agenda. Item E, to adopt revisions to the City of Burlington's purchasing policy, updating the current policy effective upon City Council approval. Item F, to adopt an updated policy for allowable costs and cost principles for expenditure of American Rescue Plan Act ARPA funds. Item G, to amend the American Rescue Plan Act ARPA Grant Fund Ordinance BA 2022-2023 and authorize the Director of Finance and Risk Management to make quarterly reimbursements to the City as outlined in the grant ordinance. Item H, to approve a budget amendment 2022-26 for donations made to animal services, including a competitive grant award from the Petco Love Foundation in the amount of $60,000 to support spaying and neutering of community cats through the Mighty Mousers program and medical care of animals at the Burlington Animal Services. Item I, to to approve Budget Amendment 2022-27 to recognize donations made to the City of Burlington Parks and Recreation Department throughout fiscal year 2021-2022. And item J, to approve Budget Amendment 2022-28 for all funds as of fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022. At this time, I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. The next item on our agenda is one of a series of public hearings. Public hearing number 1. A public hearing has been set to consider an application to rezone properties zoned general business GB and medium density residential MDR to be rezoned to general business limited use GBLU. The properties are located on the westerly side of Alamance Road, north from the intersection of Alamance Road and Bonnie Lane, and on the north side of Bonnie Lane, west from the intersection of Alamance Road and Bonnie Lane, addressed as 2771 and 2779 Alamance Road and 2229 Bonnie Lane, and consisting of the Alamance County Tax Identification Numbers 120489, 120486, and 171551. At this time, we'll recognize our Planning Director, Jamie Lawson. Jamie.
We're going to have to make those lists a little bit shorter.
Yep, it's like these books y'all get us tonight.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. So this item is a request to rezone property zoned general business. The properties are shown on the map here, highlighted in an aqua hatched pattern. The request is to rezone the properties from medium density residential and general business to general business with a limited use. As noted, these properties are on the west side of Alamance Road, on the north side of Bonnie Lane. Per the UDO, the limited use zoning districts, specifically, the applicant is looking for the following principal uses: office professional, office sales and services, and outdoor storage. The future land use designation for this area calls for the area to be regional commercial, in that the proposed general business with the limited use complements the existing commercial and residential uses in the area. This matter was heard by the Planning and Zoning Commission at their May 23rd meeting, and there was a recommended unanimous approval of this project. And you also heard this item briefly at your work session on June 6th. As of the noticing of this public hearing for the item, staff has not received any public comment. However, we are recommending approval of this request with consistency statement sheet option 1 shown in bold and red. I will be happy to answer any questions that you have, and I was also hoping to introduce there's Lawson Brown. So I wanted to just introduce the applicants as well in the event that they have additional supplemental information to provide, or you have any questions for them.
Okay. Lawson, come on.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. For the record, I'm Lawson Brown. I practice law with the Vernon Law Firm at 522 South Lexington Avenue across the street, where I have been for 47 years. It's my pleasure, and I'm going to have to be looking over my shoulder. This is the second time that I've come before you with a staff recommendation, a Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation, and a consistency with your long-range plan. So I don't want to belabor any of the discussion about this. Your package is very complete. I'd like to thank staff, particularly Ms. Lawson, Mr. Kirkman, and Mr. Lambert for directing us in this general business limited use, which I think is a wonderful solution to a lot of the zoning matters that I bring before you. I'm happy to answer any questions. Mr. Chet Miller, the principal in Concrete Solutions, who is a long-term Burlington resident, is here to answer any questions I can't, but again, I don't want to spend any more time as necessary. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone have any questions at this point in time? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lawson. This is a public hearing, so at this time we will open the floor for public comments on item number 1. Would anyone on this side of the room like to speak during the public comments for this hearing? Anyone on this side like to speak concerning this matter? Hearing none at this time, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. At this time, we'll entertain any discussions or a motion concerning the matter.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to make a motion on the matter to approve the request to rezone property zone general business GB and medium density residential MDR to be rezoned to general business limited use GB LU. The properties are located on the westerly side of Alamance Road, north from the intersection of Alamance Road and Bonnie Lane, and on the north side of Bonnie Lane, west from the intersection of Alamance Road and Bonnie Lane, addressed as 2771 and 2779 Alamance Road and 229 Bonnie Lane, and consisting of Alamance County tax identification numbers 12048, 12046, and 171551. The motion is based upon the consistency of the proposed rezoning with the comp plan, in that the future land use map in Section 4 land use of the comprehensive plan calls for this area to have regional commercial uses. The request is compatible with the adjacent residential and commercial uses. This action is reasonable and in the public interest, in that the comprehensive plan calls for residential and commercial uses in this area, and the request is compatible with the existing zoning and land uses in this area.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Our motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Miller. Yep.
Since Mr. Miller is here, I would like to say thank you for what you've done with those two properties so far. It looks really, really nice. So I hope you'll continue in that vein. Appreciate it.
Our next item, item number 2. A public hearing has been set to consider an application to rezone property zone light industrial LI, general business GB, and high-density residential HDR to be rezoned to light industrial limited use LI-LU. The properties are located on the northwest corner of the intersection of Williamson Street and East Webb Avenue, addressed as 1535 East Webb Avenue and 0 Williamson Street, and consisting of Alamance County tax identification numbers 134158 and 133832. Recognize Jamie Lawson, our planning director, once again.
Good evening again. So this is a second rezoning request for limited use. As noted, these properties are light industrial, GB, general business, and also HDR, high-density residential, and the request is to rezone all of them to light industrial with a limited use. Again, per UDO Section 3.18, the limited use specific for this rezoning request is about 16 different uses. So I'll just read them into the record. Bulky items sales, business incubator, co-working space, office professional, outdoor storage, parking lot, retail use other, contractor service yard, electrical or plumbing, fabrication, flex space, general industrial services, maker space, manufacturing light, metal fabrication, warehouse storage, and wholesale sales. Those are all of the uses that are requested by the applicant. As noted in your staff report, the future land use designation for this area is to be neighborhood commercial, and staff indicates the proposed zoning complements the existing commercial uses and the residential uses in the surrounding area. Again, the Planning and Zoning Commission heard this request at their meeting on May 23rd and recommended a unanimous approval of the project. This was also briefed to you at your June 6th work session meeting, and we have not received any public comments. Staff does recommend approval of this request with consistency statement sheet option 1 shown in bold and red. And staff is also available to answer any questions that you have. I'm looking to see if, oh, there's Chad. Great. Everybody's helping me out in this big audience tonight. So Chad Huffman from the Leads Group is here also as the applicant, and happy to see if there's anything else that you'd like to add, supplement.
Sure, I'd be glad to. Yep, come on forward. Welcome. Thank you.
Mayor Butler, council members, thank you very much. Chad Huffine, 505 East Davis Street, Burlington, North Carolina. I'll just quickly echo what Jamie said. We're bringing to you a rezoning case that will allow the property owner to grow his business in the various uses that we've tried to present to you. Currently, the property is HDR with a strip of general business, which without the ability to have a consistent zoning in that area prohibits him from using that as his industrial use. So if you have any questions specific to the details, I'll be glad to answer those. But at this time, that's the gist of our case.
Okay.
Thank you.
For your summary on that. Any questions for Mr. Huffman? Anybody? Okay. This item 2 is also a public hearing, so at this time we'll open the floor for public comments. Is there anyone from this side of the room that would like to speak concerning this matter? That don't count. Anyone from this side of the room like to speak? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. At this time, we'll entertain a motion considering the rezoning as spelled out in item number 2.
Mayor, I'll make that motion. I make a motion to approve the request to rezone properties zoned light industrial LI, general business GB, and high density residential HDR to be rezoned to light industrial limited use LI-LU. The properties are located on the northwest corner of the intersection of Williamson Street and East Webb Avenue, addressed as 1535 East Webb Avenue and 0 Williamson Street, and consisting of Alamance County tax identification number 134158 and 133832. The motion is based upon the consistency of the proposed rezoning with the comprehensive plan, and that the future land use map in section 4 land use of the comprehensive plan calls for this area to have neighborhood commercial uses. The request is compatible with the adjacent residential and commercial uses. The action is reasonable and in the public interest, and that the comprehensive plan calls for commercial uses in the area. The request is compatible with existing zoning and land uses in the area.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion carries as approved. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Our next item, item 3. A public hearing has been set to consider an application rezone properties zone medium density residential MDR and medium industrial MI to be planned development PD, which will allow for a total of up to 252 multifamily units to occur among 7 multifamily buildings with a clubhouse and amenities. The properties are located westerly from the intersection of Bonner Bridge Parkway and Danbrook Road on the south side of Bonner Bridge Parkway, addressed as 1851, 1865, and 1842 East Buck Hill Trail, and consists of Alamance County tax identification numbers 106900, 106787, and 106897. Once again, we'll call on Planning Director Jamie Lawson to provide additional information.
Okay, good evening once again. So this item is a request to rezone properties that are medium-density residential and medium industrial to be planned development. And as noted, this would allow for up to 252 multifamily units to occur within 7 buildings, along with a clubhouse and other amenities. The properties are shown on the map highlighted in the aqua hatched shade on the south side of Bonner Bridge Parkway. The future land use designation for this area calls for it to be suburban residential, and so staff finds that the rezoning is consistent with the future land use designation, as well as the residential within the area and development along the corridor to the west and to the south. At their April 25th meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended not to approve, 2 votes in favor, 3 votes against. Staff does recommend approval with consistency statement option 1 shown in bold and red. I just wanted to highlight, subsequent to that meeting, there was one modification that's been included in your packet, which is, I just wanted to highlight here, as the applicant has swapped the location of one of the buildings, and I'm circling around with my mouse, and the pool. So those two buildings have been swapped. And I can recognize Mr. Tom Johnson and the applicants, Adam Tucker and Spencer Peterson from Zimmer Development in the audience. I know that they have also had several meetings with some of the residents in that area. So welcome, Mr. Johnson, to speak and answer any questions that you might have. And I'm happy to as well.
All right, thank you. Welcome, Mr. Johnson.
Welcome. Thank you. My name is Tom Johnson. I'm with the law firm of Williams Mullen at 301 Fayetteville Street, Suite 1700 in Raleigh, here on behalf of Zimmer Development, the applicant for this project. Zimmer Development would be familiar to you. They've got a shopping center they've had here for 15 years, the Lowe's Food Shopping Center, and they built the Milltown project, which is directly north of this project, apartment project on Bonner Bridge, which we came before you before to do that. Why are they here tonight? Well, they're here because it was so successful at Milltown. Over the past year, the average occupancy has exceeded 98% at Milltown, so it obviously shows there's a need for more apartment units. And so that's why they came forward with this project. Jamie and her staff have been great to work with. We worked through that and went through the plan development process, which is a new process here in Burlington, but works very well. And we were able to come up with some items that exceed the requirements of the ordinance, which is required by plan development for this project. So what's being proposed exceeds the minimum requirements of the ordinance. And we're glad that we were able to work through that with them, and staff is supportive of what we're doing here tonight. What we also did as part of the process, which in working with Zimmer and projects in many different places, we do engage with the community. It wasn't required to have neighborhood meetings or any of that in connection with this project, but we did that anyway. And so we had an initial neighborhood meeting and had several folks come out and ask about the project and ask some questions. And then when we got the Planning Commission, some of those residents, particularly the adjoining ones at West Buck Hill Road area, where they directly adjoin the project, had some questions and some concerns that they expressed at the Planning and Zoning Commission. So we had subsequent meetings with them. Several with them, and I'm pleased to report here tonight that we were able to work through their concerns, and I think council's gotten emails in that regard that the West Buck Hill residents are satisfied now and are not objecting to the rezoning at this point in time because of the things we have done. Primary of which, Jamie mentioned, we shifted the pool and the clubhouse over to the property line toward West Buck Hill, so there's not as much height over there, and they felt a lot better about doing that, which is why the site plan was changed. As we've also gone through the project, and we knew before when we came forward with Milltown, the concern was traffic. Well, we really addressed the traffic issues with that project and the things we did there, which were twofold. One, improvements at University Drive and Bonner Bridge by adding an additional turn lane and traffic signalization there. The other thing we did is we added an additional lane in the school turnaround for Highland Elementary so that the traffic from the school would not spill out onto Bonner Bridge in the morning and afternoon when the children are dropped off and picked up. So that was already done in connection with the previous project, and the traffic impact analysis showed that nothing more was really required, but we didn't want to leave it at that. We knew that with McIntosh there had been concern expressed about having an alternate entrance and exit out of McIntosh, and so we committed as part of this project, and you saw in the conditions, Zimmer Development is committing $300,000 toward a second or not an additional entrance and exit into McIntosh in a location that the city may determine, so that money goes to the city to work with the residents to determine where that may occur. So from a traffic perspective, that's what we did to address it. You have the list of the conditions for approval that were in your packet. That shows how we've exceeded the requirements. Primary upon that, part of the requirements of the PD is you have some sort of public amenities, that you have things that are benefit the public and available to the public. Zimmer Development was able to work with AT&T, who has an easement across the front of the property along Bonner Bridge, to reach an agreement to put a 10-foot wide trail system at the front of the project with benches, dog waste containers, exercise stations out on the front of the project, and that trail will connect to the apartment project itself. Additionally, with that connection, we've secured approval with the school system to have an additional, or have a sidewalk connection to Highland Elementary, so those that have children that may be in this apartment complex can use that sidewalk to get to Highland Elementary without going out on the main road. So those are really public improvements that we're proposing as part of this project. In addition, there's enhanced landscaping, enhanced open space, enhanced building design that's above and beyond what's required. And as well as we were going through the process, an additional plaza and gathering space for the residents of the apartment complex. And in addition, we're doing 64 bicycle parking spaces where only 20 are required, so going above and beyond in terms of that. Really, Zimmer Development's gone above and beyond here and really worked hard, because what council always wants is for, if there are any differences, that those be worked out, and we've worked really hard and done that with the West Buck Hill Road residents, and come back with an agreement where they're not opposing it because of the concessions that have been made. Question, I will touch on one other thing. Question was made about whether there would be any blasting required. We've had a geotech out there. There's one building, one of the buildings up on the Bonner Bridge roadside, so it's not toward residents. There's some rock there. Don't know at this point whether even blasting will be required there. There are mechanical means to remove that rock. It's not that it has to go that deep in that location, so we're hopeful that's what will happen. But in the event that blasting may need to happen, there would be appropriate notice to residents, and it would be only for the occasion that it would be necessary to remove that rock. But like I say, it's one building, and it's away from the residents. We're happy to bring this project forward. We've had a very positive experience with the Milltown project and would anticipate having the same positive experience here for the city. In addition, this will involve annexation, which will benefit the citizens by increasing tax base for the city of Burlington. I'm available to answer any questions you may have. I do have Adam Tucker and Spencer Peterson here, but I also have our traffic engineer and our design engineer. If there are any other questions that you may have about our request and about the project.
For the current time being, all that 252 multi-family units are going to dump onto Bonner Bridge. Is that correct?
They will be on Bonner Bridge. We did the traffic analysis, and based upon the improvements we did last time, there's more than enough capacity to handle the additional traffic from these apartments on Bonner Bridge.
And city staff, if there's a second exit, where would that be?
What they're proposing, you can see it at the top of this map here, one entrance on the west side and one entrance on the east side here.
But it's still dumping onto Bonner Bridge.
Yeah, there's no other.
That's my point.
Yeah.
The other connection was through McIntosh, and I don't know that it's been settled. We've been talking to staff about that as to where that will be, but
we could get staff to, Nolan, could you or someone maybe give us a little briefing on what we've looked at from the additional entrance and exit there? We looked at Huffman Mill Road, I think, at one point in time.
Yeah, just real brief summary. I think what you're talking about is the public meetings that we held at McIntosh. to try
And
to.
we talked, we've talked in a work session or something
Yeah.
too. We've looked at it really since the last project out there. We've put a heightened sense of awareness on that area. And obviously knowing that at some point we was going to need to create another ingress egress, so.
Yeah, the original McIntosh development on the map with the conditional rezoning showed, I'm pointing to it here on this map, showed a future connection to Greason, not as part of that project, but something that was conceptualized.
Right.
And the idea was to have additional access to the area. So more recently, council asked staff to go out to McIntosh, hold some public meetings, and try to get some input from McIntosh residents on what their interests were or preferences were regarding a potential second point of access to the subdivision. And so our transportation folks, Brian Tennant, who's here this evening, and certainly could add some detail if needed, held, I believe it was 3 meetings? 3 public meetings out there to give people plenty of opportunity. And they basically were looking at a potential connection to the east to Huffman Road, or potential connection from the west side of development over to 61. What I remember, and you may recall we passed this along, Brian did a summary of the input, was that in general, I think they had about 40 folks that participated. The feedback was that in general, folks kind of liked not having the connections. This is, and Brian, tell me if I'm missing something here, but the more preferred connection, if it was needed in the future, would be more to the west towards 61. And there would be some additional benefits to the city for that, because our economic development site 12 sits right over here in this area.
Right.
So that could potentially double as, some access for that as well. So is that what you were looking for?
Yep, that's exactly. So to clarify, the part of this project, money would be set aside to go towards the funding of whichever one of those we move
Correct.
forward with in the future.
That's correct. Whichever one may be determined. We weren't going to weigh in on that because we were aware of those meetings that had occurred,
Right.
and did not feel like that was appropriate. But to account for any additional traffic was there, we said we would do that.
And in earlier meetings, gosh, a couple of years ago, there was a conversation about coming back to the east. And Nolan, what was the response from the citizens in McIntosh on that discussion?
You're referring to the connection east to Huffman?
Huffman Mill Road, yeah.
And Brian, you can jump in here too, but what I recalled in Brian's summary was that there was some concerns about this connection in terms of safety, and security into the backside of the development. So I think that were some of the concerns that were shared. I'm
But that's
missing
been on
from
the-
that. Okay.
That's been on the map for a good while, since McIntosh was actually built, and nothing has been done.
Yeah,
Well, I think it was conceptual originally.
it's just
Right.
conceptualized, yeah.
Right. So it's still, my concern is all the traffic out of this development onto Bonner Bridge, along with the other apartment complex, along with the school traffic. So there you go. That's a lot of traffic.
So I would say the majority, you're substantially accurate there. You got to remember there is a connection out the backside where you can come across the interstate down Wissett Park. So there's a small percentage of traffic based on past studies that use that to get to the interstate. But yeah, you're right, the majority uses.
And I realize school traffic is 7:30 to 8:15, and then again from 2:15 to 3 o'clock.
Right.
So I get that as well, but during those peak times, that's a lot of traffic.
And the traffic impact analysis, it didn't even show that there was a need for another.
It didn't. What I recall, and Brian reviewed this as well, is that it did not show any additional improvements were needed. Yeah.
And you're dumping 200, at least, well, I won't say 252, but you're dumping more cars onto it, and you're saying that the traffic study said nothing else is needed. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
you know, the traffic studies, you know, they work off of DOT metrics, and you have to meet certain requirements in terms of certain current level of service versus build-out level of service. And based on that, it didn't show that any additional
I think we're
improvements.
getting ready to get an expert.
I'm not an expert. I'm Adam Tucker with Zimmer, 111 Princess Street. And some of you recognized me from 15 years ago when I was standing here on the rezoning for Shops at Waterford. But I think what may be missed here is when we did that third turn lane onto University, the traffic study said it didn't need it. And the residents wanted it, so we did it anyway. And quite frankly, DOT wasn't very happy with that because we kind of committed to do it, and it's a DOT road. And DOT was like, well, you know, slapped our hands for kind of putting us all in a bad spot for agreeing to something that didn't really need to be done. But the residents felt like it needed it, so we did it. So I think, Commissioner Wall or Councilman Wall, I think that's why you're kind of having a hard time understanding why you can dump all this. It's because it wasn't needed in the first place, based on the traffic study. But the citizens wanted it. We got it done. I think you could ask anybody that traffic's better out there than it was without the apartment complex. And also with the addition of the school improvements. So, you know, I think that's where maybe the point is being a little bit skewed, is because it was operating at like a level of service so high that adding this traffic to it still doesn't make it fail.
Adam, did you get a slap with the hand or the rule like in school?
Well, maybe Nolan did. He may have been the traffic engineer at the time. but yeah, it was Chuck Edwards. You know, he was had a talk with us, and so we don't do that anymore.
Yeah, and it's also with apartments, as we've learned. Obviously, we've seen a lot of these in the last several years, but we've learned that not all of these are dumping out at one time. I mean, it's pretty spaced and pretty fluid, and it's really low impact based on prior experience.
Yeah. But that's the answer, is it wasn't needed on the first go around. The traffic study didn't even recommend it, but you know, the people spoke, and we did what we could to allay those concerns. So. And we have our traffic engineer here too, if you want to hear the actual expert say it. But that's the history behind it. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
If you want to, I can have the traffic engineer get up and speak to it. I mean, it's essentially going to be the same thing probably, but.
I really don't care.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, if you need to, he's available.
Yep.
So.
Do you want to earn your money tonight or not?
I'm here if you need. Yeah. Any other questions? Mr. Johnson or Mr. Zimmer? We're all good. Okay. A reminder, this is a public hearing, so at this point in time, we will open the floor for public comments, and we'll open it up starting on this side. Anyone on this side of the room like to speak about this project this evening? Is there anyone on this side of the room? Oh. Come on forward, ma'am. Please state your name and address, and welcome.
Thank
Glad
you.
You're here.
Brandy Whitaker, 3248 Castle Rock. I'm a resident at McIntosh, with quite a few people here. I don't know if I can ask questions to their traffic study person. My concern as a new community, I actually live in a brand new development. We were the fourth house to move in out of, I think there's 12 or 15 right now, of 70. Most of those houses haven't been completed yet. We also have a second subdivision that's going in our first roundabout. None of those houses have been moved in. So we're looking at an additional, let's say, 250 cars that I'm assuming are not involved in their traffic study. So I wanted you guys to kind of take that into consideration as well. Also, Leo Terra, this nice giant townhome community, is just now in the infancy of being built. So we're talking a ton more cars, probably at least another 250 to 300 cars in that subdivision. So 3 new subdivisions that I'm assuming aren't accounted for in their numbers. So I'd like for you guys to take that into consideration for the residents. One way in, one way out. As nice as the Springwood exit is, it's minimal impact. Most of us don't use it unless we're going to Springwood Park. So it's going to create an issue, I do believe. And there are some other properties that are in the zoning process we're going to talk about this week and next week that'll also have a huge impact on McIntosh and on that intersection at University if those get approved. I'm a little nervous about those projects, to be honest. But, just minimally speaking, another 750 cars with their project, if you approve it, I think would be detrimental to our community.
Thank you. We appreciate those comments. Just for clarification, Brian or Nolan, when we look at projects like that, obviously there is a point in time that a project will reach the tipping point to where traffic is impacted. Can you explain that so everybody's...
Yeah, I'm sure their traffic engineers would be glad to talk about what's in the TIA, but all approved developments, trips from those developments are included in the TIA. But some of them that aren't approved yet, those wouldn't be. Like I said, there's a tipping point at some point where, somebody has to make additional improvements.
Yep. I did want to clarify. When the traffic study was done, it was done assuming McIntosh at full build-out. So that's the number that was used. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I believe we did.
Let's hear that.
Yeah, hear him. He can say it, but...
So it seems like Lawson is a popular name here tonight. I'm Cliff Lawson, traffic engineer with Timmons Group. But as he said at the very beginning of the study, we got an email from city staff kind of showing the existing build out of McIntosh and what's to be built in the future. And we assumed that the vast majority would be built by the time 2024, which was our assumed build out year for the traffic study. I don't know if it was 100%, but it was somewhere in like the 96, 97% range.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification. Appreciate that. Is anyone else on this side of the room that would like to speak? Let's see. We'll move to this side of the room. Do we have anyone on this side of the room? Mr. Beasley, you want to step forward? Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Charlie Beasley. I live at 1134 Cardross Street in McIntosh, right at the end of where Lock Ridge cuts into Greason there. Walked my kids through the woods there a couple of times. This is solely my opinion tonight. Have not researched facts. I usually bring you guys some kind of numbers. I don't have that. I'm not necessarily worried about traffic impact with the rezoning that's coming up and what's already been zoned and what could potentially come in the next few weeks that are already requesting the Planning and Zoning Commission for. What I am concerned and what I really can't abide is growth without vision. I lived in Atlanta for a little while, lived in Charlotte. I watched those cities grow beyond their means, and they struggled with things like this, with infrastructure long term. Simple request is that City Council, this group here, highly considers no zoning approvals right now until a concrete plan can be made for a third entrance to McIntosh. I know there's not a traffic impact. I know there's no immediate need for that. It can support a full build out of McIntosh and all the apartments that are coming and all the townhomes that are coming. But what I see is, and what I want is that area to get developed, because let's face it, my property value is going to go up eventually because of all that. So I'm not necessarily against any development along Bonner Bridge or Lock Ridge. What I would like to see is a concrete plan to confirm the infrastructure for egress points for McIntosh before we move forward with anything like this as a community. Right now we're right at, I think, 8% of the total population of the city. And if you factor in non-local traffic, particularly with high traffic items that we don't know could be zoned yet, there could be a potential problem there with traffic down the road, maybe not right now, as well as other issues with petty crime, which I unfortunately have seen up close a little bit in my previous lifetime in larger urban areas. That's all I've got.
Thank you. I will say, a couple of weeks ago, I was on a forum with Trade Business Journal on economic development, and one of the things they asked was, are you ready for the growth that's coming? And my answer was, I don't know if anyone is ready, but the question should be, are you prepared? And we've been preparing for growth for quite some time. Our city staff, and with our planning and comprehensive plan, yes, we have been preparing, but to your point, we have even hard numbers on the cost of
extending the road to Huffman Mill Road. We've looked at, is it, what would it look like from an infrastructure standpoint? We've had meetings where we have actually discussed that. So there's been a lot of planning that's gone in for whenever the inevitable was. And then at some point in time at a community meeting out there, I was approached by a group that said, hey, we may not want it there. We may want it somewhere else. So that's when we reached out and had city staff meet with the residents to see, was there some better alternative? But regardless, I feel like we can move pretty fast on that, certainly on the Huffman Mill Road side, because that's already been planned. And we've talked about that at great lengths. That's one piece that I wanted to put everyone's mind at ease on, is that we have had a growth plan for at what point in time things do elevate to a stress level for the community out there. So any other questions or comments on that? Any other public comments from this side of the room this evening? Hearing none, at this time we'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Kathy? Second by Councilmember Hikes. Thank you. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. At this time we'll entertain a motion concerning the rezoning of item number 3.
Before you do that, Mayor, Ms. Lawson, what else can go in this area other than that?
Good question.
The site that we're talking about today? Well, you have the medium-density residential portion that allows for residential development up to 4.85 units per acre. So you've got single-family attached, detached, multifamily, all as options there. And then you've got the small sliver of medium industrial, which is the purple shade here, with a variety of non-residential use types there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
A question which I don't think there's maybe a perfect answer to, but when I was out at McIntosh last fall, I ran into a number of people who are living in the apartments now who were there for parts of the year because they had family, a lot of them had kids who had moved in this area. The traffic situation obviously is a concern that may have been put on steroids as a result of certain times of the day with the school. Let's be very honest about it. And that's the 3-lane concept we put in that hopefully would address that. I don't know if Chief Smith's here tonight. Chief Mevin's here tonight or not. But Chief, with the fire station there, with the traffic as we speak to now, you got what, about 2 sections of the day? For how long is that an issue, or is that an issue for you guys getting out?
Yeah, I was just communicating with Battalion Chief Harris about this very topic, and what he has shared with me is that there are some concerns during the school traffic. When we take a right, it's not a problem, but there's a traffic queue in the mornings and the evenings when we're trying to go left. He has also shared that typically when we're running lights and sirens or emergency traffic, the traffic does move out of the way. So it's not a big issue. I do know that the firefighters traveling to work in the morning, they take a right on Danbrook and come all the way around, so they don't queue up in a line. But as far as emergency response, we're not having any issues per se.
You're not? Okay.
No, sir.
Thank you.
Well, the day, Mayor, the day that we had that wash day, I mean, it was pretty obvious there was a traffic problem in front of the fire department and also coming in out of the school. The timing of that was based basically on the school traffic. So that sort of clouds my vision on the traffic issue. And again, that's just a couple parts of the day.
Yeah, and I think the same would probably be true. You know, we've all learned that you don't want to go up Edgewood Avenue at 2 times of the day.
That's correct.
With turn time.
You're right.
Or Delaney with Smith School.
That's correct.
So it's just something that is going to always be there, and something we're going to always have to deal with. We just have to be, to Mr. Beasley's point, prepared for what's next if we start having to relieve some of that pressure.
Well, obviously, if that particular area will probably grow out, fill up. There's no question that's going to occur. So I think I don't disagree with Mr. Beasley. At some point in time, should we start taking a very hard look at that additional exit out? I'm a little bit biased towards going out towards Springwood because there's the city's made a substantial investment out there at that particular facility, and there's room for additional investment there. So I sort of like the second option of potentially getting out. I believe that as everyone has said, what did Charles say? 8% of the population is out there of the city as we speak now. It's a pretty popular development. For being here with some of us are still left. Bob was here when this project came to our, and of course, we've got some P&Z members here. When this project came to the city in 2004, it was some substantial changes had to be made in zoning and vision about a project of this size, especially when part of it's adjacent to a water reservoir, which is a completely different situation, and then also adjacent to a major thoroughfare in terms of I-40, I-85. And it was a change in the way the city had to do business, quite frankly, in terms of its not only the development side, but also for its future transportation plans. University Drive, the exits off I-40, the connection from those exits getting back to Huffman Mill Road, and then later on down going back towards 62. So, I think a lot of that, to give staff credit, was looked at in those early stages. Now, as we get close towards build out, obviously there may be some more modifications that's needed. And that's something we're going to have to consider, honestly, to make it work at some point in time. Mayor, I'm ready to make a motion. If it's up to you in terms of where we are on the.
Does anyone else have any other comments? Okay, Harold, I'll entertain your motion if you'd like to proceed.
Mr. Mayor, I first of all, before I make the motion, let me mention that Chad Meadows is here, and we talk about planned development process. This is a perfect example of how P&Z and development has taken place over the years. Planned development. And it's really the future for every community, and especially along this corridor, which is only going to grow more and more as we go along. So I'll make a motion to approve the request to rezone from medium-density residential MDR and medium-density MI to planned development PD district. The properties are located westerly from the intersection of Bonner Bridge Parkway and Danbrook Road on the south side of Bonner Bridge Parkway, addressed as 1851, 1865, 1842 East Buck Hill Trail, and consists of Alamance County tax identification numbers 106900, 106787, and 106897. The motion is based upon the consistency of the proposed rezoning with the comprehensive plan, in that the future land use map in section 4, land use of the comp plan, calls for this area to have suburban residential uses. The request is compatible with the adjacent commercial uses. The action is reasonable and in the public interest, in that the comp plan calls for residential uses in the area, and the request is compatible with the existing zoning and land uses in the area itself.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries and is approved. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you guys again. I just wanted to let you guys too know that we recently are closing on our permanent loan for Milltown, so we'll be the owner for that for a long time to come, just like the shopping center. So same plans for this. So we look forward to being here for a long time.
Wonderful.
All right. Thank you guys.
Do you recall that your first project was his first project on council?
It was.
It took him before he even got sworn in Florida, so I can show you the water and going back towards.
That's right, and we had a DOT issue on that one too, if
Yes,
you'll
we did.
recall.
That's
So,
right.
I have to
yes.
get up to speed quick.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you guys again.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, our next item, item number 4. A public hearing has been set to consider adopting an ordinance to amend the City of Burlington's Unified Development Ordinance, UDO to OTA-3-22. At this time, we'll recognize Jamie Lawson once again. And Jack.
Good evening. I'm happy to introduce Chad Meadows tonight. You guys have met him many, many times before. He is here to present the Unified Development Ordinance text amendments. As you are aware, we have been, city staff and Mr. Meadows have been actively engaged in community feedback for the Unified Development Ordinance. I'm just going to go through the slide and show the. We're on our 8th round of ordinance amendments. There have been several different workshops, public workshops in person and also on Zoom to engage the public in getting feedback on our Unified Development Ordinance. This round of ordinance amendments includes a lot of the result from the citizen and development community that we've gotten feedback from. So at the May 23rd meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the proposals from 6-1. This matter was briefed before you at your June 6th work session meeting. There were a couple things that were removed, such as the Historic Preservation Commission membership, and we also eliminated the tiny homes presentation. I think that was it. We haven't received any additional public comment on that, but staff is obviously recommending the packet that's before you tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, but I'll let Chad go through his presentation. So,
thanks, Jimmy.
Up here, you want?
Sure.
Or would you like just the map?
If I can drive from here, this would be great. Thanks, Jimmy. We'll find out. I may be moving. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. Before I start, let me apologize for that extra 72 pages in your agenda that aren't mine. Just kidding. The meetings that Jamie mentioned have been...
That was actually very poetic.
Yes, it was.
The meetings that Jamie mentioned have been very successful, and we expect to continue them. You should really commend your staff for that work. There's not a lot of communities in the area that do that kind of thing, and the fact that it's happening here is a testament to your success. So I'm just so happy to be a part of it. As Jamie mentioned, this is our 8th text amendment since the UDO adoption in 2019. There are 54 areas of revision. I'm not going to cover all of them in detail. We've organized the information into 3 blocks. They focus primarily with community prosperity and also with additional clarity and precision in the regulations. We've made or allowed for suggesting larger administrative adjustments, greater clarity on how to file an effective plan development application, more allowances for modern small lot residential development options like bungalow courts and pocket neighborhoods, continued adjustments to the table of allowable uses, again trying to facilitate growth and prosperity here in the community, more changes to support and simplify multifamily development, changes to encourage murals, more clarity on fence heights, allowances for privacy fencing on side and rear yards, recognition of the need for temporary portable storage containers by non-residential uses, more flexibility for addition to parking lots on a developed site, more rational bike parking standards based on building size, removing landscape buffer requirements when abutting land is unbuildable, and more credit for retention of existing vegetation during development. Reductions to commercial development standards, including projections and recesses, fenestration, and options for primary wall determination. More options and clarity for building variation in multifamily developments. Continued sign standard adjustments, addressing illumination, owner decisions regarding removal of obsolete signage, additional allowances for banners, EMBs, supplemental signs, incidental signs. We're suggesting reductions in entry point standards, sidewalk installation waivers for change of use and minor additions to existing buildings, minor reductions in open space set-aside requirements, plus recognition of walking trails as active recreation. Compliance requirements for non-conforming sites have been reduced. More clarity in final plats, requirements for shared parking for subdivisions with inadequate space for parking, less intense rezoning applications permitted to be changed by council. Conditional rezoning plans are subject to vesting rules, establishing minimum areas for duplexes, triplexes, and quadplexes. Increased minimum separation for adult businesses, fence placement and easements, fencing materials, concealment of building wall attachments and fixtures, density rounding to tenths, not hundredths, limits on relocating nonconforming signage. Now, I've flown through this. Your staff has spent months working with applicants, myself, people who live here, to bring these amendments to you today. Jamie mentioned our P&Z consideration on the 23rd, recommendation for approval, 6-1. And also the consideration of this matter in your work session on the 6th of this month. We have made the changes that you suggested with respect to the Historic Preservation Commission, and we got into more complexity than we anticipated with respect to tiny homes. We are getting it squared away. Your building inspector has been extremely helpful in helping us understand and navigate permitting issues that might come up from the way the standards were drafted. We've chosen to remove those from this packet and hope to bring them to you in the next round of changes. Again, focusing on these tiny homes that might be built off-site or that might be built on wheels. There's special standards for them. I, as always, appreciate the chance to come and speak with you, and I am happy to answer any questions you have.
It's pretty quick, Chad.
I'm trying to get better.
I apologize, but I had to look up what fenestration was.
Putting windows in.
Putting windows in. The arrangement of windows and doors in the elevations of the building.
Yeah.
So now.
Any questions for Chad or Jamie?
Thank you.
Yep.
I'm on hand if you need it after the hearing.
Perfect. Thank you, Chad. Item number 4, this is a public hearing, so at this time we'll open up the floor for public comments. Is there anyone on this side of the room that would like to speak about item number 4, our UDO update? Anyone on this side of the room would like to speak about this item? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. At this time, we'll entertain a motion concerning the update to our UDO, item number 4.
I make a motion to approve the request to amend the City of Burlington Unified Development Ordinance with the proposed text amendment. The motion is based upon the consistency of the proposed text amendment with the comprehensive plan in that Section 4 Land Use Goal 1, Recommendation 5 of the comprehensive plan calls for an update of the Unified Development Ordinance. Section 4 Land Use Goal 1, Recommendation 5 of the comprehensive plan calls for ensuring sound land planning decisions that are consistent with the vision of the plan. This action is reasonable and in the public interest in that Section 4 Land Use Goal 2, Recommendation 4 of the comprehensive plan addresses confusion, conflicts, and obsolescence of the zoning code through a new unified development ordinance. Section 4 Land Use Goal 2, Recommendation 4 of the comprehensive plan, a new UDO will be modern, graphically intensive, and user-friendly from both a public petitioner and administrative perspective.
Thank you, Councilmember Heights. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries as approved. Thank you. Thank you, Chad, once again, and Jamie, for all your work tonight. That concludes our public hearings. We'll move to new business. Item number 5. City Council will consider appointments to the 2022 advisory boards and commissions. This time we'll recognize our public information specialist, John Vernon.
Mr. Mayor, before we get started, is it even possible for us to move this item on the agenda to July? One would be a work session. I know it's not scheduled, but we could call for one on the 18th, and then also maybe seek some more applicants for some of these positions.
I think it's a reasonable request. As a matter of fact, I'm glad you brought it up. I did speak to some of the applicants about flexibility of moving around, and some said they would give it consideration because in certain areas we had numerous, and others it was a little weaker on the appointments. What would so you would thinking maybe adding a work session? We have no work session in July, is that right, Beverly?
The meeting is July 19th. We do have a city council.
On the 19th. So
Is it feasible for us to have one on the 18th?
We could have a work
session on the 18th.
Mayor, I'd like to make a suggestion. We could actually come early that evening.
How about that?
Fine with me.
Come at 6, have a regular meeting at 7, you know, hour give us enough time, when you think, to.
Okay. I'll work with that.
Your wisdom is well noted.
And since it's my too.
Are there any of these positions that need to be filled right away?
By the ordinance, if they're not filled in this meeting, their current terms are extended, so they automatically by ordinance, so no.
Yep, and I have, I did read that. I'm glad you brought that up, John, but I think we're close to having a good slate, but we do need a few more. And I do believe, I've talked to a bunch of people and asked them to fill out applications, and I know others have as well, and I keep calling Morgan every day to see if we've gotten any more, so I've not given up yet. We did get 5 more.
We got 6 more, I think.
Was it 6?
Yeah.
So, and a couple of very good ones that were well thought out in the areas that they wanted to serve. So I think that's a wonderful idea. Is everybody, would that be in the form of a motion?
Sure, I'll make that a motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we have a motion to table this until a work session to be scheduled 1 hour prior to City Council meeting on July 19th.
July 19th at 6 p.m.
That's what
It will be named a special meeting.
A special meeting work session.
Regular meeting stuff.
Okay, so that would be the motion. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll be happy to second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Councilmember Wallace. Great.
John, can you continue to advertise or get information?
Yeah, we can do another push on advertising about that too.
And I'm still hopeful.
I did find one under 18-year-old.
Good.
Very excited.
You did?
I did.
Congratulations. I had my daughter working on that. So.
She's going to apply.
Wonderful. I'll send you guys the applications as they come in.
I appreciate everybody's engagement in that. That's really important. We've learned how important our boards and commissions are this past year specifically. So I know that'll be good to get that put behind us. At this point in time, we'll move to our public comments. This evening we have one signed up, Pastor Greg Hargrave, 717 Cannonade Drive, Whitsett, concerning the update to the Apple Ridge development. Mr. Hargrave, Pastor Hargrave. Welcome this evening.
Thank you, and good evening, Mr. Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and all the council members. It's an honor to be here tonight. I've been speaking to you all off and on Zoom, so it is a wonderful privilege to be here on tonight. I do live at 717 Kennedy Drive in Whitsett, North Carolina. My second resident is 421 Fulton Street in Burlington at Gospel Tabernacle Church. So I'm there quite a bit. I've pastored there for 37 years. In the last council meeting, I felt that it was necessary to come and give you, the council, an update on the Apple Ridge development, which was approved through the technical review, and of course there's CDBG monies involved as well. I'm happy to say that as it related to the residents in the St. John area, we are always very sensitive to, any concerns and things that people have, but we were just not able to fulfill the closing of St. John Street. We did not feel like that was the best thing, especially at the 11th hour that we are here now. We met with the residents actually 2 years ago on May the 11th, 2020, a little over 2 years now, and they were certainly very adamant about closing that road. We were in technical review at that time, so we could not make any promises as to what would happen there. We did work with technical review, and I just want to pause and say how grateful we are to staff and how they assisted with this whole process. You know, Nolan has done an excellent job. We started with Mike Nunn, and with that group, we're working now with Erisbeth and Lee, et cetera, and I just met Jamie on Zoom for the first time the other day. So we couldn't make any real promises there. We have been engaging the residents, and lo and behold, going through technical review, our plans were approved actually in October of 2021. So we've been moving, we've been doing a lot of soft cost things, and I'm pleased to announce that the erosion control measures have been, a lot of them have been done. We have all the silt fencing up, the construction entrances, and 2 of the 3 temporary retention ponds have already been taken care of, and there's been an inspection, so we passed that inspection. I said that to say that when that request was made regarding St. John, we felt like we were at the 11th hour at that time, and we had put a lot of funds and things in, so we felt like we could not honor that. There was a suggestion on a hammerhead type turnaround as well as another cul-de-sac, but there's 2 cul-de-sacs in that development right now, and they came by virtue of technical review. There was a through street from Baldwin Road that came back to St. John, but that was not one that staff liked very much, so we changed that. And now there are 2 cul-de-sacs. You can come in on Baldwin, but you have to cul-de-sac and go back out. Same thing on St. John. If we were to close St. John, it would leave 1 ingress and egress. And my big concerns was the emergency parts of that. When I was bivocational, I was a paramedic for 12 years in Davidson County, North Carolina, and I understand response times and things of that nature, so that really concerned me if we blocked that road off and there was an ambulance on Church Street that needed to get to those houses. They would have to go all the way around either Fulton or Baldwin to get into that development. So we didn't feel that we could change that, and of course by general statute we understood that we didn't really have to do that, but we did have an emergency meeting to talk about that, and we felt that we just could not do that. We have been engaging the residents there. I see them on a daily basis. In fact, I talked to one of the residents today. We have cut back a lot of trees, being good neighbors to several of those residents, just being a good neighbor in the neighborhood. I think what I'm seeing now is, as I dialogue with them, that they are getting a better understanding of exactly what we're trying to do, and we will have an HOA, and we will be here perpetually in this particular development. And so I wanted to come by and reassure you tonight and let you know that we're well on the way. There's already been 2 draws from the community block grant monies, and Lee and those have made that wonderful, and our grading contractor is doing an excellent job. We project that in 3 months or so that they will be done with this first phase, and then we will be ready to start stripping some more soil as it relates to some of these other roadways. I want to thank you. I want to thank the staff. I want to thank our board chair who's here tonight, and several of our board members are here just to be here as a support, and I look forward to other updates and wanted you to know that we are certainly not trying to be hard neighbors. We just feel that we need to proceed with this affordable housing project, and we're excited about it. So thank you for your time tonight, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for your update on that. That ends our public comment period at this time. Are there any council comments?
You mentioned you get, obviously, the 2 cul-de-sacs coming off of Baldwin, right?
You got one coming off of Baldwin, which comes in, and it cul-de-sacs, and they meet in the middle, and there'll be a playground. The other one comes off of St. John, and it cul-de-sacs, and that's where, again, the playground is there. So there's no through street there, and originally that was one of the proposals, and of course Chad Huffman is our engineer, and that was changed. They did not really like that through street from Baldwin to St. John. So there's only going back out from St. John to Apple Street. And of course, those who are right there at St. John, they just turn left and they go to St. John down to Morningside and right on up Church Street if they would like, as residents.
And the concern that the other group that had at the last meeting was basically a straight shot to Apple. Is that correct?
Yes, it dead ends now, St. John does, and then it will go to Apple, yes. And I think their concern was, yes, the through traffic there. But again, if we were to block that off, that means all of those residents, because of the other two cul-de-sacs, would have to actually go out on Apple Street. All of them would. An emergency vehicle would have to go all the way around Baldwin or come Fulton to get into the development. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I do have a council comment. We said that when we participated in some kind of training, municipal training, that we would report to the council, and I went to a webinar on affordable housing, which you know I keep talking about. I urge you to think about doing that webinar with the Institute of Government. It was very informative, just of the basics of what affordable housing is, because people talk about affordable housing, but we don't all mean the same thing. And so I felt that particular area was very strong, but also they suggested that our council think about a strategic way to attack or tackle the whole issue of affordable housing. Because we are already doing some things in terms of code enforcement and keeping the products that we do have. But how do we encourage people to start doing what Bishop Hargrave is doing, projects that are coming from the private sector instead of government public housing and that sort of thing. So just giving you that review. It was very, very well done. If you want to know more about affordable housing, I recommend it to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that update. Any other council comments?
Jamie, what happened to the house on Front Street? I noticed it today, it was still there.
So the property owners did get approval from the Historic Preservation Commission. They requested a demo permit, not a demo permit, but a demo application through the HPC. And I think on Friday, the last I heard was on Friday they were going to be reaching out to the inspections department and completing the paperwork for the demo permit itself. They were extremely apologetic. The property owners were there at the meeting, the Mays, and they were extremely apologetic regarding the length of time it's taken to process things. And went into some detail. I don't want to speak for them regarding their matters, but they were very apologetic and intended them moving as quickly forward as possible. So I don't know if you've heard anything more on that. No? I'll be happy to follow up with Russell Williams tomorrow and just see if he had contact with him on Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council comments? I think we've been requested to go into closed session. David, do you want to fill us in?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I ask that the City Council go into closed session at this time pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-31811A3 and C to give consideration and instructions concerning the handling of settlement claims and judicial actions, including the case Brandon Don Dixon versus City of Burlington, all Alamance County, Superior Court File 22 CBS 7088, and Second case is Cindy Lackey and John Lackey versus City of Burlington, North Carolina Court of Appeals, case number COA 22-117, on appeal to the Court of Appeals from Alamance County Superior Court, case number 21 CBS 002. Need a motion and a second motion.
Okay, it's been requested. Is there a motion on this request?
Motion to approve.
We've got a motion to go into closed session. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
You were getting one, buddy.
Here we go home.
All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Thank you. At this time, we'll enter closed session.
this fellow, that gal, who, this isn't attorney-client. This
Still here?
This is everybody who's in the building.
Yeah.
No, not everybody, Thomas.
Not everybody.
Correct.
Yeah, no, that sort of defeats the whole point of attorney-client privilege when you invite everybody in the building in. I'm sorry, but it does.
Okay.
All right, this time we'll take a motion to go back into open session.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This time we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
With pleasure. So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye, aye. Good night, buddy.